Welcome back to World Pulse 360 Global. Today, we are expanding our coverage of the critical interview between Daniel Davis and Colonel Douglas Macgregor, a discussion that outlines a fundamental shift in the global order. Over the next 10 minutes, we'll dive deep into their analysis of resource sovereignty, the limits of maritime power, and the rising alliances that are reshaping the Middle East. Colonel Macgregor begins by highlighting a stark reality. U.S. efforts to influence Iran have reached a stalemate. He notes that the Iranians see no reason to negotiate with the current administration, effectively playing a waiting game until a shift in leadership occurs. As the colonel notes, the Iranians have shifted their strategy to a long-term waiting game, viewing the current administration as having lost its leverage. This sets the stage for a period of zero diplomatic movement. Daniel Davis points to a critical economic ticking clock: jet fuel. With supply chains disrupted, some carriers may have only weeks of capacity left. This turns a regional security issue into a global financial emergency. The immediate economic concern is the tightening supply of jet fuel. With only weeks of capacity remaining for some carriers, the strategic blockade of the straits is no longer just a military issue, it's a financial ticking clock. The conversation then moves to resource sovereignty. Macgregor argues that the age of depending on distant choke points for food, fuel, and minerals is over. Nations must now build the capacity to sustain themselves within their own borders. This concept of resource sovereignty is central. Macgregor argues that relying on distant maritime choke points is a strategy of the past. Nations are now racing to secure their own food, fuel, and minerals within their own borders. The role of the U.S. Navy is also under scrutiny. Macgregor notes that by remaining outside the straits to avoid attack, the fleet's ability to actually secure the global economy is diminished, raising questions about current force posture. The critique of the U.S. Navy's role is significant. By remaining outside the straits to avoid attack, the fleet's ability to actually control the seaways is being questioned, highlighting a gap between military presence and economic security. Iran's advantage lies in its status as a continental power. Supported by Russia and China, its supply lines are internal. Unlike a maritime power that relies on 6,000-mile journeys, Iran is largely self-contained. Understanding Iran as a continental power supported by Russia and China changes the strategic calculus. Unlike a maritime power that must travel thousands of miles, Iran's supply lines are internal and much harder to disrupt. Macgregor draws parallels to World War II, noting that nations in an existential conflict can withstand far more damage. The standard of living in the West makes us more vulnerable to disruption than a nation already prepared for total war. The comparison to World War II highlights a critical psychological difference. For nations like Iran, this is viewed as an existential conflict, allowing them to withstand much higher levels of economic and social damage than the West. We are also seeing a major regional realignment. Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan are forming security ties that look to resolve regional issues independently of Western protection, effectively bypassing the old order. We are seeing a real-time rearrangement. The emergence of a security alignment between Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan suggests a Middle East that is looking to protect its own interests independently of Western intervention. Finally, the colonel warns of a swimming pool full of black swans. He argues that these regional conflicts are the likely triggers for a broader meltdown in the Western financial and banking systems. The warning of a swimming pool full of black swans points to potential collapses in the global financial system. The Colonel suggests that these regional conflicts could be the trigger for a broader Western economic meltdown. Macgregor concludes with a grave warning about what he calls the art of defeat. He sees the current trajectory as unnecessary and tragic, a path that leadership seems unable to exit despite the growing risks. Ultimately, this interview paints a picture of a world in transition. From military force posture to financial stability, the old structures are being tested and a new multipolar reality is emerging in real time. Thank you for joining us for this in-depth world pulse analysis. What are your thoughts on these shifting alliances? Comment below, share this report, and subscribe for more geopolitical deep dives. See you next time.